So this is going to be a very interesting video because we are going to deal with these young plants. Young plants are affordable and within the reach of almost everyone. My brand of teaching bonsai is to make bonsai accessible to people. I don't want to put people off by making bonsai out to be elitist and expensive. These are things that you can get from virtually anywhere. We buy them in, some of them. We grow some, but we also buy some in. And these are very popular because there are so many things you can do with it. So let me go through all these young plants. These are all supposed to be 3 to 4-year-old plants. These are hawthorn. A few of them have still got their leaves, so this is a typical hawthorn. And for those of you who are familiar, it is very popular as a hedging plant, but it also makes beautiful bonsai. They're sometimes used as forests, so I can tell you what each of these plants are useful for. Now this one is rather rare because this is not ordinary beech. I know that they have turned brown because autumn time they turn this color, but these are purple beech, and in the spring they have this lovely pinky purple color. So we can show you what we can do with these. These are much older hornbeams. These I think are like 4-year-old hornbeams. They're about 4 foot tall and they're vigorously grown, and some of the stems are almost small finger thick. This is ordinary European beech of Fagus sylvatica. Look at the lovely autumn color on this. So this is ordinary beech. These I think are like 2 to 3 years old. These are 1 to 2-year-old hornbeams, much smaller. So they're about 10 inches tall, maybe 30 centimeter tall. So this is ordinary hornbeam. Now this one is rather rare. This one is Carpinus japonica. That means Japanese hornbeam. So the leaves are quite distinct, and because they've been grown vigorously, the leaves are large, but the leaves do get small. And this is the Cotoneaster horizontalis. I'm going to show you, this could take almost 2 or 3 programs because each of these plants are usable for various purposes. Now straight away you can tell that those of you who are in the know will realize pretty soon that because they're tall and straight, the obvious solution would be to make a forest out of any of these. You could put several together and get an instant forest. Any of these can be used as an instant forest, even those little ones. And for good measure, you could even make it into a nest because they're still viable. So let me take this. These two are good examples. Let's begin with these two. Okay, so this is your ordinary European beech. So what can I do with that? So rather than just have a straight tree, the classic thing to do is to make it into an S shape. So an S shape, I don't feel shy about repeating myself, and I always emphasize the importance of repetition because the more you repeat, the better you become. Any of you who do some of these sports like swimming or other pastimes like dancing, you will soon realize that repetition is the key to success. You cannot become perfect until you keep practicing, practicing, practicing. Practice till the cows come home, as they say. So there's nothing like a good repetition. So classic S shape, and before the leaves fall off, stir the pot. I think many of my YouTube fans who come here for classes, they remind me to stir the pot. So they've obviously taken on board what I teach them. So stirring the pot, and of course it's coming out of a pot at that angle, and I usually put it at another angle because if you change the angle of planting, you get a different looking tree. And if you wanted to even have a more dramatic twist, you can twist it even more. These young plants are very pliable, so there's less chance of them breaking. So be bold and give it a good shape. Now, if I don't want the tree too tall, I can bring it back on itself like that. I ran out of wire, I can bring it back like that. But let's wire some of the branches and see what we get. So let us take some wire again to repeat what I always teach you, the two-branch principle. Two-branch principle simply means you wire two branches with one piece of wire. And always make sure you have enough to go to almost the end of each branch. So I'm using here 1.5 mil wire to do the branches. For the trunk, I have used 2.5 mil. For those of you who are doing bonsai for the first time, don't be stingy and just try and buy one grade of wire and hope that you can do all your bonsai with one size or one grade of wire. You will not. You have to have several grades. And if you don't learn how to wire, your progress in bonsai will be very slow. Wiring is at the key to all successful bonsai. The sooner you learn to wire well, the sooner your progress in bonsai will become more obvious or visible. So let me take the wire up there, wire to that branch. There's something very pleasing about the S shape. Mind you, you do get trees in nature that look like this shape. There is one oak that we have seen in the middle of London, and it's got a beautiful S shape. You don't often see oak trees with that shape. And if you don't want the tree too tall, we can cut it off somewhere there, or we can bring the tree back like that. So you've got your classic S shape like that. How easy is that? I'm not going to waste time showing you how to put it in a bonsai pot. So that is one thing you can do with that. So how about this? This is ideal. It's so flexible and young. Look at the buds for next year already beginning to show. So all these buds would become branches. So you can still wire them at this stage and get a very nice shape. So let me find the right grade of wire. Now that stem is only like, I think in terms of inches, for the Americans, I think they love it, is 1/16 in diameter, not even an eighth. So, and I'm using here 2 mil wire. But there are no hard and fast rules because different species have different flexibility. Some are more flexible than others. And because they're young plants, as I say, you can give it a very severe twist and it can still turn out right. So keep practicing that S shape. The S shape is virtually universal. You can't go wrong with the S shape. How pleasing is that? So that is your S shape. Okay, so all these trees can be worked in that way. Let's look at some of these hawthorns. These hawthorns have been planted, two plants to a pot. You can make it into a twin trunk if you wish. Let's see what we can do with this one, because every tree, as we say, is different. See, if you want to do a twin trunk, if you plant the two together, and you can leave it there, but it's better to tie it together with a bit of wire, and you'll get this lovely twin trunk effect. So let me just show you what I would do. Because if you didn't tie it together, they may loosen and go wider apart. So to tie it together, let me get my gin pliers. So we will tie this, but I think you should remember to loosen it from time to time. Otherwise, it'll cause a bulge and it won't look so nice. So rather than do the S shape, you could easily make this into an S shape. That is a universal style, universal shape. Okay, so in a situation like this, don't have too many branches coming out from one point. I did remind you in several of my earlier videos that if you have too many branches emanating from one point, you will get inverse taper. So you can already see the inverse taper taking place there. It will cause a bulge. So don't have too many branches growing from one spot. So I would just take this out. Ooh. Remember, these are young plants, and because they're young plants, you're going to get a lot of branches coming as the tree grows. So don't be in a rush to overstyle the tree. And there again, that is the start of your, I didn't even have to wire the trunk. You can wire it if you wish, part it a little more, and you've got the start of a nice twin trunk tree. So we didn't have to do much with that. So for those who come to the nursery, you can buy these trees two together planted, or if you wish, you can separate it and make it into an individual tree. Again, you can see, if you wanted to make this into an S-shaped tree, these are very pliable. So you could do that. So let me just show you with this one what I would do. I will plant it again. You take all the trouble to plant it up, and then you're going to take it apart. Okay, so let's just take one of them. Okay, we take this apart. Now, if you look at this tree, already it has a bit of a nice taper going there because this is thick, this is thin. So if I cut it off there, I will get the start of a nice taper forming. And then you can use quite thick wire to bend that. Let me just get a branch cutter, if there is a branch. May I just borrow that, please? 1 second. And we will get some thick wire to bend that. When trees develop a much thicker trunk, they are less easy to bend. So when they're this thick, about pencil thick, you can still bend them. But this is a species which is quite stiff and rigid. So I dare say you'll have to use fairly thick wire to bend that. So this is, I think, 4mm wire. I hope it will do it. You see how interesting the trunk is below. Already got lovely twists and bends there. Hawthorn is a rather vicious species because they're very thorny, and you can get injured by the thorns if you're not careful. I should be wearing gloves. Oh, that's split already. But I think it might heal up. It might heal. So, as I said, unless you try it, you won't know how much you can bend it. So that is one layer of wire. Let me see if I put another coil of wire whether it'll bend it or not. As you can see, I'm using recycled wire. Now this was even thicker. I should have used a thick one. I find that sometimes if you use a double coil, that is more effective than a single coil of much thicker wire. Young plants like this tend to set very easily, so I wouldn't be surprised if it takes the shape in the first year. So this is still an experiment. Okay, I've got it into almost a C shape. So I did manage to get an S shape out of that tree. Something which was dead straight, I was able to get an S shape. So although it doesn't look anything because it hasn't got branches, I bet you anything next year it will be full of branches on this side. So we'll follow the progress of this. Sometimes if you get a tree which has a lot of branches like that, and if you're a bit lazy, which I'm sure most people are, see that root is a bit high, this is planted a bit deep. Why don't you simply, there's several options. You can leave the leader there, or if you didn't want to leave the leader and want to just make a broom style tree, look at that, all that wasted. This tree was about 5 foot tall. We cut it back there so that it's more manageable. The beauty of these trees is that they're so cheap that you can afford to play around with them. Okay, so I don't want to teach you naughty things, but you can often come across these young plants in wasteland and on the roadside. And if you sneakily take one or two of these, and you can make bonsai straight away. So I haven't done any wiring, and it will just form a nice head, and that will be a very, very credible bonsai. So I'm not going to sell these till the spring. Let's see what happens in the spring, and I promise you I'll show you the progress of these trees. So look at it, you see, in such a short space of time I've been able to create so many potential bonsai using just these. And of course, the simple, obvious answer for most of these subjects is to make a forest out of them. So let us just do something like this. So here we are. These are hornbeams. And these lovely oval plastic pots are ideal for making forests. Absolutely ideal for making forests. So this thing, this pot is 40 centimeter long. 40 centimeter long. I could get easily about 15 or 17 trees in that. So let's see how we begin. If I can just remind you what we do when we make a forest, I prefer to tie the trees in. So get the finest grade of wire you can lay your hands on. This is 1 mil wire, and have a couple of pieces of wire so that you can tie all the trees together so that they don't get dislodged. Just a couple will do. These pots, because they've got fine holes, you don't have to use mesh. So let's begin by taking the root ball like this, reducing the root ball, and you can use the compost again. For young plants, you don't have do be worried about using special bonsai soil. I'm not doing myself a service because I sell bonsai soil. And if I keep telling people that, I won't make a living. But for young plants, as I say, you don't have to do that. So they're so well grown. Look at the beautiful roots on them. And because we're in the middle of winter now, you can reduce the root ball quite a bit. If you did this in the summer, you would be pressing your luck. You could kill the tree, or the tree could suffer quite a bit. But because we're in the middle of winter, we can tease the roots, reduce the amount of root, even bare root it. I don't like bare rooting because if I can get away without bare rooting, I would prefer to do it that way. The beauty of bare rooting is that you can get the trees to be planted very, very close together. You can bring it really close like that. I know that the leaves are quite large because they've been grown very vigorously with a lot of fertilizer. But once they are put in bonsai pots and root restricted, and if you don't repot too often, the leaves do reduce in size. That's only 4 trees. The species which are very suitable for making forest groups are larches, hornbeams, beech, maple, dawn redwood, you name it, you can virtually use all of them. And although you think I'm doing it at random, there is some method in my madness. I'm really trying to get the tallest trees to be in the middle and creating a conical shape. If I can't do that, I will trim the trees to make it a conical shape. So I can do that. I know that the trees will soon be losing all their leaves, but it's when the trees have no leaves that you can study the form and structure and be more critical about the quality and character of the trees. You can hear the rain falling. We're having a storm at the moment. So where are we? 4, 3, 7, 9. I told you we could easily get 17 trees in a pot this size. And the way to do it is to really reduce the root ball or bare root it so that you can push the trees very close to each other. When trees have such a lot of root, you can really cut quite a bit of it off. So you can get it close, almost touching each other like that. So this is only the ordinary European beech, but we've got Japanese hornbeams, European hornbeam, do exactly the same thing. So without even looking at how I'm planting it, just putting them together gives a very pleasant look to the tree. This is what I was saying, if you reduce the height, have the taller ones together, and then you can play around where you would place the trees. I always remind people that you can have a variation by having like two groups. You can have one group this side, and you can have another group this side. You can have a forest made up of several subgroups like that. That would also look nice. And then another variation is to have it growing in fan shape rather than all upright. You can make them fan out like so, like that. Can you see how it's fanning out? Like that. Some people prefer it like that. Then you squeeze this end more closely together and have it fanning out. And what do we do with these bits of wire that I showed you, that I inserted into the pot? I wrap it around each tree so that the trees don't get accidentally pulled out. So you can be sure that they will stay here. And of course, during the year, you can just check that the wires are not biting. And we will just fill the rest of the pot up with soil, and I'll show you the finished article in a minute. So I think we've had a non-stop video showing what we can do with these young starter plants. What I haven't shown you so far are some of these cotoneasters. I know that they're not in leaf yet, but again, there's so much you can do. I'm getting carried away, but a tree like that, if you had the patience, you can make it cascading down with a head. So I just show you what you can do with these starter trees. These are cotoneaster seedlings. Although they're seedlings, they're about 2 to 3 years old. So the stem is at least about pencil thick, and they've got these long, very long, straggly branches. So there are many things you can do. As with all these so-called bonsai projects, there are several options. You can either make them into small trees. So let me show you what are the two obvious choices. Okay, if you wanted to make a small, what we call a mame or shohin tree, so what I would do, I would find a nice line. What a shame, isn't it? I cut about 70 or 80% of all this stuff off. And there you are. If I didn't want that to go that way, I can probably... So several choices for leader. So from this to this, but you've got the makings of a small shohin bonsai without any wiring. You can do a bit of wiring, and you've got a little tree from that. And it'll be ever so delightful to enjoy as a small bonsai. The other obvious thing with these long branches, if you didn't want to do too much chopping about, again, you can see you've got a small tree there, but Josh, the cameraman, has very kindly wired this tree up. He has literally wired all these long branches. If you come close, you can see every branch has been wired. Here he's used 2mm wire all the way to the end, and this he's used 1.5mm wire and doubled 1.5. So we're going to make a cascade, which is the obvious solution for a tree like this. So as you all know by now, a cascade usually has a little head, and if we want a little head, we're going to wire that into a viable S shape as a top. Got to be very careful because these are prone to snap. They can snap. always zigzag the branches, because if you zigzag the branches, you can reduce the length and it becomes more artistic. So we've got that head. Now to make the cascading part. So grip it with the two hands like that, with the palms. So should you feel it snapping, you will feel it first before it gives way. As we say, don't do a point load like that. Grip it with your palms, so you're bending it with the full palm in contact with the branch. As we say, should you have an accident, should you accidentally snap it, that's all part of the learning process. Many people are obsessed by not making mistakes. As we always say, in fact, you learn more from making mistakes than doing it correctly. Because if you made a mistake, you can see where you went wrong. This applies to everything. And because cotoneasters are such vigorous plants, we can put it into a big training pot. And there you are. Look at that cascader. That is a classic cascade like that, made from something like that. So we're going to sell these on our internet shop, and you can have fun doing this sort of thing. So how easy is that? So we've brought two pots to show you. So that lovely cascade which we've just made, I have a choice of two plastic cascade pot. One is a hexagonal, one is a square top pot, and we can try both of them. They're both suitable candidates. We can try them both, but I know what one I prefer. I prefer maybe the taller one. So that looks like that. Or I can try the taller one because it's a very long cascade. The taller one may be more suitable for it. There you are. You can still play around and make it cascade much more. So can you imagine it when it's in leaf? It's going to look beautiful, superb. So there you go. So let me show you the end result of those simple projects we did with those starter trees. So let's look at the cotoneaster first. This was the cascade tree that we made from material like this. That was the raw material, and you can see how you can turn that into this. So that should give you a lot of encouragement, okay? And then the forest group, how simple is that? That forest group was simply made from this sort of material, like that. And you end up with a forest like that. So that's not too difficult. And if you use one of these individual trees, like that, you will end up with that. And that lovely twin trunk hawthorn, look at it. Wait till it comes into leaf, it'll be beautiful. It's made from something like that. So anything is possible. So I hope you get some encouragement from this simple video. My videos are all about teaching people how to get enjoyment from simple things. Many of these great projects are lovely to aspire to. After a few years and more experience, you will reach those heights, but there's always the first steps to be taken. And these first steps are equally enjoyable, equally satisfying as some of those very sophisticated projects. So I hope you enjoy this and enjoy your Christmas doing things like this. Remember, you can do this at any time of the year, and the winter time and the springtime are ideal times. If you do it now at the middle or end of December, in the temperate climate, you can protect them in a garage or frost-free shed, and the tree should be okay. So enjoy it.